everybody. Welcome. Dadman Walking 55 here with a special Sports Weekly. Well, we've kind of gone on hiatus a little bit, but we're bringing it out for a special time of year, folks. Right now, we're entering, the college bowl season has ended, and that has caused a lot of controversy from the selection process to the games themselves to off the field problems and stuff. So, we're going to kick a little bit of that tonight. Along with looking at the last week of the National Football League season going into the playoffs, and we shall see what shall happen there with that. But I can't do this alone. I don't want to do this alone because you know what? I talked so damn much in the last 5 days. I'm amazed I even have a voice left. So with me tonight will be a cast of characters that should be familiar with you, and one new bright face to grace up the place, and clean up this pigsty. So let me introduce first a returning co-host on March Madness, XFL, many other things sports. He kicks my butt in picking head-to-head. It's a great Whoopa Troopa. Hello, Mr. Missouri.
Hello. How's it going?
It is going well. How are you doing these days?
Oh, I'm tired. I had to go back to work yesterday. Not fun. Or today. Not fun.
Well, I went back to work today and found out I was supposed to have gone back yesterday. So at least I have personal leave. So that's so funny. Hey,
better than the other way around, coming back when you thought you had to and you had an extra day.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm going to make it where Corey is over on the Twitch side, where Corey and many others can tweet now the emote only is off. Thank you, Corey, for being here. All right. You got to cover a lot of football this season, and that's kind of cool, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I get to cover one last game this weekend, and then I'm done for the year.
So. What game are you covering?
I don't know yet. So
they don't know yet. Okay.
They kind of do it off of most of the college games. You don't have to be as urgent, so right. They will assign you one. With the NFL, since it's kind of first, they want to get that out by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
They pretty much just have a check-in point once the games are over, and whoever's first gets the first game that's available.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's move on to the second person of this. He probably was a high school band member on his high school team, on the field. I don't know. Maybe a guy whose team hit the crater this year, but then ripped apart my Oregon State Beavers, taking not only the great head coach, but also the future quarterback of the program, while the other starting quarterback abandoned them. It's the great J.T. Kirk. Howdy, sir.
Hey, good evening.
Good to see you, J.T.
Go Lions.
How about them Cowboys? We can talk about that a little bit more.
We'll start this off in a congenial way first, shall we?
Yes, we shall. Yes, we shall. Hey, I will not question Trek. I still have to watch Con. I still have to watch Con. Yeah. So. All right. Well,
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to
Whoopa and to the chat as well.
Absolutely.
Excited to talk about some football.
And with that, let me go ahead and bring on the fourth member of this crew that will come in, brighten the place up, kick everybody's ass, take names, and bring some grace and class to this program and stuff. Hey, don't tell me ladies don't know their football. This is such an honor and a privilege to have the great Sci-Fi Mommy here with us tonight. Hello.
It helps if you take yourself off mute.
Exactly. It happens here all the time. Yes.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
That's good. And you spelled Chiefs right. Yeah. I love that commercial, that stupid commercial with the who are the chefs?
The chefs. And you know what's funny is I was telling my kids, that's an old commercial. They just revamped.
Mm-hmm. Great
googly
moogly.
Marty Schottenheimer was the one that was the original coach.
That's too funny. That's an old one then.
Mm-hmm.
When Marty Schottenheimer around. Oh my goodness. So I remember when he was fired from Cleveland. But hey, those are the days many, many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. So, and you hail for the great state of Missouri yourself, and big Chiefs fan there. So, hey, so tell us a little bit about your football background, because I know Whoopa is big into Missouri sports here too. So, let's know a little bit about your background.
I'm more of a baseball person. But I got into football in college, going to Missouri State. Well, they weren't Missouri State then, but Missouri State games. And then I met my husband, and he was a Chiefs fan. And my sister and we were Rams fans when they moved to St. Louis. And we just kind of started learning about football, and we just really loved it. And then, of course, the Rams won the Super Bowl in St. Louis, and so that nailed put the nail in the coffin for us.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome to hear.
So, which baseball team are you a fan of then?
Oh, Cardinals. I live in Springfield, so we have the Baby Birds.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I am there a lot. Yeah, in the summer, that's my favorite place to hang out is Hammond's Field.
We may have to talk baseball this season then, I guess.
I love baseball. And
probably better than Busch Stadium for last year, at least.
Yeah. I finally got to go to the new Busch Stadium. I was so happy. It was for a Kenny Chesney concert. And I walked around after we were selling merchandise for his show. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
That's so cool.
It's a real nice stadium. I'm happy that they went to that as people say, Bush 2 had a lot of character, but
So what are we on, Bush 3 now?
Mm-hmm. Bush 3.
Oh, God. Can we not use the stadium for 50 years again?
Well, Bush 2 was falling apart so bad.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Bush 2 was one of those, that time when everyone was building those perfectly circular stadiums.
Yeah.
That was one of those, and it kind of got outdated pretty fast. It's a cool place. I have some memories of it, but it was definitely kind of like,
I'm just cheap. I'm just so cheap. It's like crazy. So, but
I'm just happy they haven't changed the name yet. Instead of all these places that's like, no, it's not, Comiskey Park anymore. It's whatever the heck.
It's not InBev Stadium.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, I hate that.
Yes, but in terms of NFL football, though, Sci-Fi Mommy, what are your teams?
I'm Chiefs right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was the Fairweather fan. My husband was always diehard fan. But when the Rams left St. Louis, I turned to the Chiefs, but I'm still kind of a Rams fan. I was happy when they won the Super Bowl again in LA. But it's like bittersweet, you take the good with the bad.
Is it still the same Kroenke ownership out in LA? Or did he sell the team?
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, he built a fancy new stadium and makes a lot of money off all the visiting fans that like to come to the Rams games because there's not a lot of home fans at those teams.
So obviously, I know Stan Kroenke is a sore subject with Whoopa. So it's like, what is it like with Stan Kroenke's show leaving town?
What was that?
What was it like with this? I've heard you, but like Sci-Fi Mommy, what was the reaction when he left town with the team? What did you think?
I told him, don't let the arch kick him in the butt on the way to LA. I was mad what he did because the fans are so dedicated. I still know friends up in St. Louis who are still so dedicated, like my sister and I are, to the Rams. And we were all just stunned that he did it. And he's a Missourian. He was born in Columbia, and he went to Mizzou, and he was here for the longest time. And I was actually looking at his portfolio today. He owns the Colorado Nuggets and some other teams, and I'm going, what?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting? What's interesting with him though too is that's twice the city. They had the Cardinals that moved to Arizona, and then that they moved out. The Rams moved back, and then moved out again. And I remember when it was Charlotte, it was Carolina, Jacksonville, and St. Louis, and they were trying to get him to come in at last minute for the ownership groups, but it was like such a messed up deal. It was like the NFL tried everything they could do to give St. Louis a team, but they ended up having to finally give it to Jacksonville, and we have the Jaguars. But I remember his name from that deal. So, but let me say hi to people in the chat. We're about 10 minutes in. So, hey, hi to Corey Cochran. Good to see you again, Corey. And he's also on the Twitch side. And we got this JT Kirk guy. Hail to you, Small Time Republic. The semifinals were great, and we're going to talk about that a little bit coming up here. Good evening to the great Miss Martin Muses. Great to see you. Thanks for coming on our stream the other night where we made it almost the whole time, but hey, we did good. DJ Play Nice, say thanks for coming through, saying hi, bumping that algorithm. Yeah, the algorithm needs all the help. I've been up and over 550 like 3 times in the last 2 days. It's funny to watch the number, but it's like, oh well, it happens. But like he says, all y'all, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you might miss it. Ferris Bueller. Like that, just like your NFL teams in St. Louis, I guess. But hey, all right. Sorry. Oh my goodness, folks! Great to have y'all with us tonight. So let's get into it real quick. Before we talk much about, well, actually, let's talk about the college semifinal games here first. Let's start with that. We have and then we'll go into some bigger college issues. Then we'll end up with the NFL in just a moment. Looking at the college games, the bowl games that happened this weekend. In the playoffs, we had. Has somebody got TV on?
Sorry, that's me. My daughter's in the background. I apologize.
It's no problem. I just was wondering if I was hearing anything. That's okay. I just was curious. We had 2 semifinal games coming up this weekend. We had pull up.
Well, if you had more than 2 semifinals games, it wouldn't be the semifinals. So.
I know exactly. Well, I'm just checking
semifinals.
Semifinals. Well, I'm just checking to see if you're listening. But hey, we had 2 games. We had the 1st and 4th seed Michigan.
Boo and boo.
Played Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Michigan outlasted Alabama in a tight game, 27-20. And back to Small Town Republic's comment, they were great games. They really came down to really good. Alabama loses to Michigan. Big controversy there. Alabama gets in over Florida State, a defeated team in the ACC. We'll talk about that in a bit. Big Blue, though, wins, giving Big Ten a representative in the championship game again, 2nd year in a row. And then Texas loses to Washington. The Huskies win 37-31 here. And this in the All-State Sugar Bowl, which precludes this matchup between Washington and Michigan, actually is Pac-12 Big Ten this year, but would next year be a battle of Big Ten schools. So,
so it's a Big Ten CFP final.
You're going ahead and claiming
it is.
Yeah, yep. I got you. I don't blame you.
Yeah, if they lost though, then they wouldn't claim it. That's how it goes.
Well, it's like when something's brilliant, it's British, but when it's not, then it's Welsh or Scottish or
Yep,
that's how it goes.
Yeah. So of the 2 games, which game did y'all prefer? I mean, if you watch, which games did you prefer? The Michigan-Alabama game was back and forth. That's all part of it at Texas Roadhouse. And then the Washington-Texas looked like a track meet that came down the final try by Texas, but Washington holds on to win.
I only got to watch the end of Washington, Texas. I was doing my stream.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I thought that ending was pretty good. Washington, both the teams that won, their special teams really just like, if you had even just average special teams play, I don't think that it would be close, or at least it would be another score. So Michigan and Washington really tried to throw it away there, but
yeah.
Well, I mean that one play, I'm sure we'll talk about more, but that one play at the end of the game with the Washington cornerback, that's about as good of defensive play you'll see. That was awesome.
Yeah, because they survived that final drive. JT, did you get a chance to watch either of these games this week?
Protested the first, saw some of the second. The first one, probably the two schools with their head the most up the other areas of themselves I've ever seen. I couldn't watch that. I mean, how do you get both teams to lose out of that one?
Well, luckily, the next game has Texas, and those fans are perfectly well adjusted.
I know, right? I know, but
ask Swoop what he thinks about Austin. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Washington was my favorite out of these four teams, so I was happy that they won. Although I can't say the game was the more exciting of the two. From reports I heard, the Alabama one was kind of crazy.
It was the way it came down to the end, and then in overtime, they completed a pass, and one of the Alabama receivers got hurt at about 3 or 4 yard line. The way he got bent back over, but then it was 4th and goal, and they tried to quarterback draw, but I think Milroe ran too early on the play. It looked like a design quarterback draw, but there was really no hole for him to bounce out like they did. So like he did. I thought he ran it a little too quickly in there and didn't allow the line to develop or the hole to develop. But hey, it's what it is. Mombi, and any thoughts on did you get to see any of the college games?
No, because I don't follow college very closely, but I think I will start.
All right. Well, we'll have you. We'll teach you a lot and stuff, and we will get to the NFL in just a bit. But there's a few things that we need to hit on the college side that's really, really good, and maybe some that get to a bit bigger, to larger picture situation. Hey, CLS Studio. Hi to you. How are you tonight?
Hey,
good
CLS.
to see you. All right. Well, we got this in the, like I said, the Alabama-Michigan game came down to the wire here. Comes down to overtime. And Michigan holds off Alabama in the overtime by holding them scoreless. Jalen Monroe only threw for 116 yards for Bama. Was held to 63 yards rushing. So, obviously, Alabama was held in check offensively. Michigan did throw for 220 yards and run for 130. Really, this game was back and forth. It was 13-10 at halftime. Then Alabama took a lead late in the fourth quarter. It was a little bit back and forth seesawing with things that were there. So it just was. It truly was a game that was really coming down to the end. That was really exciting to see. As the recaps of the scores here, as you can see in the fourth quarter, Alabama took a lead 20-13, but Michigan tied the game up with under 2 minutes left in the game, then held off Alabama. Actually, in this game, what was really interesting, Alabama punted the ball with about a minute left, and guys and sci-fi, this is something you can comment on. Whatever happened to the rule of the returner putting your feet at the 10-yard line and not going backwards? The Michigan return man comes back inside the 5-yard line, muffs the ball. It rolls back to about the 1-yard line. He picks the ball up, fortunately, gets body slammed. Like, it's amazing he held onto the ball, but he did, and Michigan was actually able to run out regulation.
It was almost ended on a walk-off safety. It's crazy.
Or even a touchdown if the ball had popped out, too.
Jim Harbaugh teams have never been known to execute the last play of the game well at all. Whoop was chuckling. I can already hear him. Their infamous loss to Michigan State on the final play of the game, where they fumble, they have trouble with the snap. Michigan State recovers and scores for a walk-off touchdown.
That was one of the few awesome, most recent moments that I wasn't at the game, but I was watching on TV. I'm like, no way.
Yeah. So, but
yeah.
Oh, their special teams, which by the way, their special teams coordinator is Harbaugh's son. So, maybe he's not cut out for the family business over here. But no, that's like, there was a lot of stuff. There was another play. I don't remember. I was watching highlights. There's a guy on YouTube, Isaac Punts. I don't know if you follow him, but he does a lot of like only special teams content almost.
Yep.
And he talked about like the Alabama punter was probably their most valuable player. He did a lot of good. You can see 5 punts inside, 5 of his 7 inside the 20.
Yep.
Mhm.
And see, there was the one return for -5 yards that nearly cost the game.
He should have just let it go. I think it was just maybe nerves or either that or the coordinator sucks. It's also,
but see, we see that all the time in all these teams. We see it in the NFL too. It's like the punt returners. The rule used to be don't go. If it's over your head at the 10-yard line, let it go. But everybody's fair catching inside the 10.
It's how many players did they have back? Hands players. Because I would have put 2 or 3 back there.
They only had one, I think.
They only had the one returner. Yeah.
No, I would have had 2 or 3 back there because all you needed to do was get the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah. No,
like Lupa said, there's something funny going on there.
No. Alabama's kicker was Will Reichard. Made 2 field goals, longest of 52. Michigan missed a field goal. Yeah, Will Reichard.
Close.
Hey, Wes.
You got my Star Trek cackles going. Yeah.
Sorry,
anyway.
I tease a little bit, but hey, good to see you, Wes Cagle. How are you tonight? But Sci-Fi Mommy, do you have any opinion on that one? Because it's like that's a universal type football rule. The way it used to be is you plan at the 10 and you just, if it's over your head, you let it go. So it was a bizarre thing to see. It happens all the time nowadays.
They must have done some kind of statistical number crunching where X number of percentage, you let it go over your head and it doesn't go, blah, 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 blah. And so then they think.
Are you talking analytics?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate analytics.
So why not back up to the 8? Instead of trying to make a catch for it at the 10, why not just back up a couple yards and keep the rule the same?
Exactly. Well, the second game we have is the Sugar Bowl, which involved Texas and Washington, as we talked about. I did not see as much of this game. Whoopa, did you? Whoopa, JT, for what y'all saw, what were your thoughts on this game here?
Penix should have been the Heisman winner. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I heard his numbers. It's like, dear God, I think wasn't he a Tennessee commitment years ago?
He was a Tennessee commit, and then the new coach came in and said, "You're not worth a scholarship." And then that guy's a big old bozo. Upset.
Yeah, that was the guy before Heupel.
I mean, he can sling. He can sling the rock. I know that's not a very analytical or deep thought. It's just that guy can make some real good throws. I'm a big fan. I think he's not like the highest draft guy, but I think he's gonna be pretty good.
Oh.
He's just fun to watch. Like that whole Washington team, they had a couple rough games where it's like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, Washington was at least like one of the most fun teams to watch.
We'll look at it. 2 receivers over 100 yards each.
Oh yeah, and
I mean, it's got to be an exciting offense to watch.
And he's a lefty. I didn't.
Yeah.
But he is better than Tua, in my opinion. Maybe hot take. I don't know.
No, there you go. There you go. We'll look down and see. They let's see. No big stories on. I mean, they actually got kickers that can kick. So special teams look pretty decent here with those. Yeah, well, we're not going to spend a lot of time on these games tonight specifically, but like Small Town Republic said earlier, these games were good games for 2 playoff games. They were really good games, based on the score, and that they came down to the wire. You didn't have a route one way or the other, because you see it's tied at halftime. Then what?
Is that showing you time of possession in total anywhere?
It will. It will. If I get to the right stat on it, there's
probably in team stats
right here. Washington had the ball 36 minutes to 23 minutes for
and
Texas.
It felt like more than that.
Really?
To me, it did. I mean, the numbers don't lie, obviously, but this was Washington's to lose. I really felt like, especially with the 2 turnovers from Texas.
Yeah. But look at that. Texas still put up 500 yards of total offense, yet had the ball only 23 minutes.
No, their offense did a good job too. It was good of them. They were helped a bit by the Washington feeling like they were trying to give them the game at the end there, but Texas did a good job. As much as I don't like to say that, but they still lost.
Well,
so that's what matters.
If I can have a hot take on
have a hot take.
Both of these 2 games, I think this shows why you don't put 2 lost teams in your college football playoff. I mean, I know they just couldn't resist Alabama and Texas, but I don't think either one of those teams deserved to be there in the first place. I think they should have put Florida State and Georgia in there. 1 lost teams better than these 2 lost teams. I think the only reason that they were there was that, like I said, the selection committee just couldn't help themselves to get those 2 stupid teams in there.
But they were both technically conference champions, though, because Alabama did beat Georgia head to head and won the title. Texas won its conference title. So now, see, I do think that. But see,
Nothing
that's the problem. They got
before. Nothing stopped them before picking Ohio State anyway, and other BS like that.
Well, because because it was a riot down here in Florida. I mean, the FSU fans were they were mad that Alabama got in. They didn't, which is funny. They were more mad about Alabama getting in and nothing about Texas. I guess that they viewed that Texas was had beaten Alabama, so that was okay. Personally, I think neither one should have been. I kind of like what you said. Georgia, a 2-time defending national champion. So what? They lost 1 game to Alabama on a neutral site. That type of stuff. They you got Georgia and even FSU. But I tell you, I think what hurt FSU was the off the field stuff. The fact that they had lost Jordan Travis, they looked anemic against Florida offensively, and they didn't necessarily look great against Louisville. So that happened,
Well,
and that's why I think they went with the teams they did.
While that is true, I mean, when you look at what Alabama did, I mean, if the argument was, Jordan Travis, his team isn't good enough with Jordan Travis, then having the team you put above them, Alabama, have their quarterback go out and throw for a whopping 119 yards, it's not great for their look, of like, right. Oh yeah, I'm sure Florida State couldn't have done this.
yeah. When you look at it, the end result, that's what so many times is when we look back, it's like, well, why didn't we pick the other guy? Yeah. Yeah, so it happens a lot.
And as a result, the SEC is going to sit this one out.
Yep. But I will say, my kid also told me a little bit more about Georgia, that Georgia still was suffering with some key injuries in the receiving corps and some other positions. So that kind of affected them against Alabama. So, all right. Any other thoughts on the game? So we're going to have a Washington Michigan National Championship game Monday at 8 p.m. Any early picks on who's going to win that one, guys?
Washington. I'm just going straight Washington right now.
I agree. I don't think Michigan has the offense.
I want Washington to win. They're a fun team.
Exactly. Now, that's just not you being a Sparty fan, right?
I'm a Sparty fan, but I also detest Jim Harbaugh with a passion.
Yes.
But I also think Washington's got a strong enough squad that can really pull it off. And like Whoopa was saying about MVP, I think that's really going to help them. I'm still tossing it around, It's not like you can forget about Michigan either. So if I have to say it tonight, I'm going to say Washington. But Monday afternoon, I could sit there when I'm supposed to be doing something at work and just wandering off and saying, you know what, Michigan might pull it off. So
Well, you guys rated my coach, but then again, I don't blame him for jumping because I mean there's so much uncertainty in Corvallis and between Washington State and Oregon State. Yeah, I mean you got a big primetime Big Ten job. It's and you got a team school that will. There's no guarantee they'll make it to the Big 12 or the Big 10.
Right.
Which I see the only way Washington State and Oregon State stay relevant is getting into one of those two conferences. If they had to merge in with the West Coast teams, then they're just mediocre. They'll fall back like the others. They'll move down with the competition.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, hey, that's the early things we do. Sci-Fi Mommy, I know that you don't follow college, so So
Dadman,
You're
real
learning
quick.
a lot. Yeah.
unless you want to throw out just a pick, just randomly, Michigan. You can take the big blue Wolverines or my wife would pick between names or colors. So like the Wolverines and the Huskies, it's a dog and a almost, a wolf, I guess.
And Hugh Jackman. No, just kidding.
There you go. You can use that. Hey, when I have guests on, they can pick whatever however they want to pick teams. Yeah, JT.
I was going to say the team in the game that I really liked that didn't quite get the attention it should have was the Missouri game.
Okay.
We had talked about Missouri all year, and we were surprised by their winning, or maybe some of us were, some of us weren't. I really wish they had gotten more play because Ohio State was not an easy opponent.
Nope, and it took them late. I mean, they did not score. They won the game 14-3 with all 14 points from Missouri coming in the last quarter.
Yeah.
Talk about a painful game to watch, and that was the Cotton Bowl Classic. So,
Ohio State out of the end zone. I mean, any game that's impressive.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because I've seen teams try and come close, but then they fall short. Clemson, Kentucky is a game though that turned out really a lot of fun. That was a game that it was high scoring, close, and came down into the last minute. With Clemson winning that 38-35. Clemson outscored Kentucky 28-14 in the fourth quarter. That's how. That was a good game and a good rally by Clemson. But then again, of course, Kentucky, like our friend out there, Corey always says that the goal of Kentucky football is to be mediocre or just be average or just respectable, and that's kind of what they did there. It's just end up being respectable, Yeah.
Well, and speaking of not respectable, I mean, you look at LSU beating unranked Wisconsin and Tennessee shutting out Iowa.
I think Yumi and Whoop and Sci-Fi Mommy could shut out Iowa, honestly. So.
Well, but I'm sitting here just like, this is why the Big Ten West has been such a joke for such a long time, and they needed to rebalance it because you had Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State all in the East. Come on.
Yeah, come on. I agree. They need to do something with a competitive balance. But okay, well, let's move on to one last college game because this has bigger issues and bigger meanings for us to talk about because I do want to get into the NFL so we can have a fuller discussion and, going forward. This game here is an embarrassment to college football. Georgia, Florida State. You should never, ever have a game like this. Well, I guess last year Georgia beat TCU like something close to that, but TCU was a loaded team though. That was one that was a case where two good teams that were fully functional, fully staffed played each other, but it was a rout. But as you can see, 63-3 was this game in the Sugar Bowl. Georgia played three quarterbacks threw a pass. I started seeing this on Facebook. My friends locally, they were starting to talk about things. I'm like thinking, well, God, it couldn't be that bad. Then I started learning about, the roster. Well, we knew that Jordan Travis was hurt before the Florida game and, was not out to play this year. Then before the bowl game, well, here's what we say, folks. So that's the score. There's 63-3, nearly 673 yards for Georgia, to about 200 yards for FSU. What I think, but you want to understand why? Look at the articles that happened. At least 23 Seminole players decided to skip the Orange Bowl. Most of your time, your scholarships are around 65 to 80 players, I believe. That's 23 of your main players that here. Some were due to NFL considerations, making it a meaningless game. Others were players entering the transfer portal. So 14 had entered the transfer portal. Big names included Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, and Jaheim Bell. I think Keon Coleman came from Michigan State, didn't he?
Oh gosh, possibly.
Yeah, I think he's one that did, because of my Seminole fans earlier this season were talking about how great he was. 53% of the receiving yards on the season, 15 of the 25 touchdowns through the air. Plus, the quarterback I mentioned, Tate Rodemaker, announced his decision to transfer, which we find out later they're bringing in Oregon State starter from this year, who DJ, I can't pronounce his name, who decided to trash Clemson and all. Well, look at you. You're going to trash the school that gave you a chance, and now you're going to leave because the coach left. But hey,
Bell was a Gamecock before he went to Florida State.
Which one, Bell?
Jaheim Bell.
Yeah, but I thought Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman was the one.
Coleman.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to the draft. He's
but
probably a top 15 kind of.
Yeah,
pick.
because he was a beast. He was a beast. If you look at these receivers for them, I mean, like it said, it was 53% of the yards, 60% of their touchdowns through the air. I mean, they look at these. They lost 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 2 main wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 4 on offensive line. But look at that. There's 10 they lost on defense.
I think there might have been more on defense.
5 on defense were declaring for the draft, and it's possible there are more, because there was, like, this article was only at this point was at least 23. So
you were right with Coleman. He was at Michigan State, and then he left. Yep.
Cool. That's what I thought, because I remembered it reported on here. The reason why I bring up this point in this game is because, like I said a while back, and I put it in a tweet earlier, back Culture Casino, I had a stream where we talked about the business side of college football, name, image, likeness, the transfer portal. All these things are coming together to really affect how college football operates these days and all. Gone are the traditions. Now it's almost like free agency, and people always looking forward to the draft. The bowl game, what about the future of the bowl games? People contended that with the playoff system, which now next year will move to 12 teams from 4, the bowls are irrelevant and don't matter anymore. And now when you have players dropping out to this extent, you're not even getting quality matchups that might have looked good on paper with fully staffed teams. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, that was just insane to see all those players just poof. I don't care anymore. It's like, where was your pride in your team and your school? Why would you do that to your school? I would if it was me, I would strip them of their scholarships. I mean, you signed up to play, and the bowls are a part of that at the end of the season. And you know that when you sign up.
And JT, you mentioned something earlier. I do think that they should place a restriction on the transfer portal, because you should not be you can't just jump to the transfer portal because you decide to not play a bowl game. I understand possibly the NFL people have money on the line. Theirs is a different thing, but we're talking about you're deciding to quit one school to go play at another.
Well, in every major sport, I believe, has a trade deadline, right? So why don't they have one here?
Well, or the thing is if you transfer, go back to the old rules. If you transfer before the bowl game, you have to sit out a full complete year. Because that's one of the things that's affected college football is they've gotten rid of that. You have to sit out a year. That's damaged college football because that used to keep a lot of people from transferring. Right. And also the SEC used to have a rule where you can't transfer within the conference, but everybody started moaning and whining about that. That's pretty much gone. So now pretty much people, you can just swap teams within the conference. Like Ray Davis left Vanderbilt, went to Kentucky this season. So,
No, I think there's wiggle room that you can help the players out too. You can carve out some exceptions to it. Like if your coach, is fired or leaves for another job,
right,
then maybe you can get around that, right?
Right.
Because
just because you're not playing next year is not a reason to not be. Yeah, I do. Something's got to be done with this, because I tell you, the thing is, you might as well shut the bowl games down, because like here in our city, I think the cheapest ticket could have been $40, maybe $50, and that's even if it's an upper deck. I'm not paying that money for even though Clemson, Kentucky turned out to be a good game. I don't have that much invested in those teams. I've got to pay at least $10, maybe $20 to park, or $10 for a shuttle. Everything else, and you're asking for people to put a lot of frontline money in something that's really not even a glorified exhibition when the best players don't play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the ultimate embarrassment that this happened in one of the New Year's Day 6 games. I mean, this should not happen at this game. Last year when Georgia beat TCU, that was just, you could tell talent on the field. It happened because of talent. This, FSU went undefeated and was not the same team at all coming into this game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's because the NCAA has just moved way too slow with the playoff system. And because of that, you're seeing this. I have a totally different take than maybe everybody else here on the panel.
Go ahead.
In that I've never really liked the bowl system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the team that I always, for many, many years, grew up rooting for and then went to the school didn't have as big a fan base and didn't have the ESPN twinkle in the eye, that a couple other schools in the conference have. And every conference is like this, right? So it's not just my team that I'm saying is a victim of this, but these bowl games, especially before conference championships, would more often go to a team that may not have the better record against real opponents. They just had a bigger fan base. So you'd get to see these teams like Michigan, especially through the 70s, go to these games where they just get blown out in the bowl game. But you know what? Those bowl games were an opportunity for teams from the North to travel elsewhere. And when your team ends up having a better record and you still get to go to the 300 grit sandpaper bowl, and somebody else gets to go to a BCS bowl game because of you, over you, these bowl games were never about record or, strength of schedule or anything like that. It was all just about money in the first place. So a lot of people my age that don't come from these Alabama or Ohio State fan bases, we don't care. I mean, that's why I like the playoff system better, but it needs to be more than 4 teams. I think it needs to be 20 or 30 some teams.
I think at least 16. Do it like the 1AA schools. At least 16. Yeah. Make it a real.
Well, they have 24, I believe.
Oh, they had 24 now, because at one point it was 16. So. I thought. Jeez.
Last I checked,
that's a lot of teams for a playoff, though. But I mean, I would be fine with 16, because generally outside of 16, you're not going to win the title, really. One point though with the bowl games, because being in a city that has a bowl and it's had a lot of representation, a lot of community outreach. One thing that the bowls do is do a lot of fundraising for charities, especially for local charities and stuff. They are, I mean, it happened even PGA in St. Augustine and stuff like that. So that has been one of the cases that's been made for the bowls, is that they do a lot of civic good for raising monies for charities and stuff like that.
Well, these universities could be doing that anyway, but
see, this is local, like for local charities, and that's how they do. I mean, local to the community where the bowl is. Whereas the universities take the money all generally back to their schools and spend it there. But even then, I mean, that's a more philanthropical reason for the bowl games. But the problem is again, if you're not going to send your best players, or the best players can sit out, then why should people go waste time and money? I mean,
I think the playoff system would help remedy some of that, because if you have a chance at playing 3 or 4 more games, not just one, then you have more chances to pump your value in front of the NFL.
Yeah. But
right?
the problem though, I think with the bowls themselves, though, they look at it for survival. Now it doesn't help. There's like 400 bowl games now where they're actually taking teams with losing records. That doesn't help because that also waters it down. But like, I mean, the Gator Bowl has always made the case that they're a vital part of the community. They're out here to raise funds and give money to charities, and that's why that they've argued about keeping the bowl structure alive. But
and I don't mean to sound insensitive.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
But I don't care about any of that when it comes to playing football. I don't care, and I want to see the best team win.
I agree. I mean, I don't mind having an exhibition game if I'm getting the best players. I just don't want to pay $50 for basically a junior varsity game,
Right. And that's why I think the playoff with more games, more teams will help that.
Well, the thing is, and I mean, you might be able to put some of those into some of the other bowls to keep the bowls around. But I think the drive is the first round to on-campus sites, which is going to be interesting because I think they're probably going to make the bowl games even more irrelevant now because those teams used to try and the fan bases are travel. I know the big thing with the economy, even Iowa, as bad as they are, they travel well and people like having them because their fans travel.
Well, what it also does is you kill all those Southern bowl games, then the Southern teams have to travel to the North during the colder time of the year. And then all those fan bases have to travel up North. It's not a one directional subsidy every year for all those Southern cities.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's it. Go ahead, Whoopa. Go ahead.
As I say, I think the biggest thing with the bowl games, why they are in the state they are, is first of all, whatever the rule was where they made bowl eligible if you get 6 wins. That's a crappy rule. And they expanded so many bowls. It used to be, and I know that there was a lot of politicking that went on with bowl games. Wasn't just who's the best. There was a lot of. I was watching a alert something about one team got a bowl game because they said, "Hey, we'll play. Our basketball team will come play a game in your city." Which is definitely very silly. At the same time, there were a lot of good teams in those bowl games often. Like they were good bowl games and for the most part. But I think another thing is like the playoff format really killed a lot of bowl games because there's no real incentive to do like if you don't what I think a lot of people are saying is how the general person views playoff, like college football success is very different than it used to be. Like Georgia not making the playoffs is a failure. And in the past, if Georgia made the Orange Bowl, right? If Georgia makes the Orange Bowl pre-playoffs, that's a pretty good season. It might not be the best season you want, but everyone's probably pretty happy. That's the big thing of like, it used to be cool to get into these big bowls, even if it's not the BCS national championship, just because, hey, these are big deals. These are big bowls. You're going to get a good payout. And like people are going to be watching these, including the scouts. Now it's kind of, scouts still watch, don't get me wrong, but like, certainly you see FSU and their fans view it as a huge disappointment. And I don't think Georgia fans were, particularly thrilled to be left out of the playoffs, where I think that in a different scenario, this would be still viewed as a pretty good game, and I think that's where a lot of it goes through. And once you get a playoffs, anything but making the playoffs is a failure to a lot of people. And
that is, that was a I don't remember when the BCS and the other before started. We've got 20 years or something, but I remember many years ago, Whoopa, you might have been a little toddler running around that when this started coming out, the bowl director, Gator Bowl director, has been around forever. Even then, called the alarm, and a lot of bowl people were like, if you bring in a championship game type situation, the bowls will start to lose their relevance to things. And that you're right. That's the whole mentality, really, especially with the bigger schools, is that, hey, we don't, now it's championship or nothing. Before it used to be get to bowl game and have people vote you to be the best team. At least you still had a chance. But now, if you're not one of the 4 elected, then it's a meaningless game. I remember one year when Florida won, it was a 96 national title. They were like 3rd or 4th. Arizona State Arizona State beat some, I don't remember who they beat, but it was one of those screwy things that Florida had to play Florida State again. Florida State, I think, was number 1, had to play Florida in a rematch because of a close barn burner where there was a lot of cheating by the Seminoles and stuff. But Spurrier versus Bowden, and then the second and third ranked teams were in other bowls, but they both lost. So when Florida State played, it became that was the last time I remember, because in that case, the polls mattered, because back then the second and third team could have won it. If Florida won, they could have still won the title ahead of Florida, but because they lost, the polls had relevance. That gave Florida still a chance. But had it been like FSU playing the second ranked team, then they would, it would have, Florida would have had a chance to do it that year. So
yeah, I always think, and I know this is not an official barometer of a lot of stuff, but I always think it is just, when's the last time you watched a non-playoff, a non-CFP bowl game that gave you the same feeling than was it the 2007 Oklahoma and Boise State? Like,
that one, yeah.
You don't get those
ago.
games. You don't get those games anymore in the bowls. And some of it I do like. I just think they have way too many bowl games. The Pop-Tarts Bowl is all right. We can keep that one.
Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl now.
Yeah.
It's not just a Sun Bowl. It's Tony the Tiger.
But the fact that they have, like, if you, I feel like in the past, I know there's exceptions to it, but it felt like if you didn't have 9 wins, you're probably not making it to a bowl game, because I think they only had like 20 or so.
Yeah, there were not many.
Now, it's just you win 6 games. Like, I'm sure, last year you didn't think Florida was particularly great. I didn't think Baylor was particularly great, but they both got to play in a bowl game. And it's just like, I didn't want to, like, I watched it because I'm a Baylor fan. But when we lost, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, we didn't deserve to play games this late. We're a 6-6 team that struggled against a lot of teams we shouldn't have. I don't see. I don't see who wants to watch. What JT Kirk was saying. 6th place MAC versus 5th place CUSA. Who wants to watch that game besides the teams who play? Play like if it's your college, sure, but even then, like, you're not. I wouldn't travel for that.
It's like the parents. It's a minor league game at that point.
It's just, I don't see what there's no one. I can't believe that there's like casual college fans, or even not casual college fans, just like big time college fans of not those schools who are like, oh man, I can't wait to watch this today. Like, it just seems silly. I don't know.
See, to me, the history of this whole thing is important, because you look at the way conferences kind of came about, and these bowl games in college football as a whole is a very regional thing for the most part. And so a bowl game kind of makes sense because it is kind of like a championship game.
Right.
But when you expand it out to 50, 60, I don't even know how many bowl games, and you're pulling people from all over the country and all this and that, there's no regional nature to it. And college football now is a national
Conference
game.
realignments. There's no such thing as regional matchups, and we're starting to lose. We're going to be losing more of these regional matchups and stuff. So let's go ahead and wrap up the final thoughts, because I want to get into the NFL and bring Sci-Fi Mambi into some NFL so we can hear from her and some opinions that she's got with football.
Of course.
But last few thoughts with this.
I'm just seeing that college football is now a national sport, and so every other national sport has a playoff structure, and that's the way you have to go, and that's the inevitable direction of it. And in 10 years, you may still have a few bowl games hanging out, but I think their days are numbered. Definitely.
I agreed. That was said 20 years ago. Whoopa?
I do think expanded playoffs is going to be at least better, and I think those games are going to matter. You're going to replace, even if it's not, you're going to have, I don't know what the Orange Bowl or whatever is going to be, but those games are going to be good instead of what they are now, or like Cotton Bowl or stuff. Those games are going to be better, and I just think, the bowl games, the way they are, it's just, I don't think, because of all the extra stuff that they've done, that you can't, you're not going to go back on it. You're not going to go back on the playoffs. I don't think they can go back on NIL in any big way. That's going to matter a lot for, I don't think the Bulls are going to be the same as long as you have those, and I don't see those going away. So I think at the very least, there'll be more fun games this year. So,
okay.
Or next year. Well, no, this year, I guess.
Well, let us move on, and we will have fun. Okay, Sci-Fi Mambi, we got done with the college part. Thank you for your patience with that. But hey, shall we look at the NFC first or the AFC first?
Well, I'm AFC, so we could go there.
All right. Well, let's go to the AFC then, my friends. I wasn't sure. Yeah, you're Chiefs, not Rams. So, hey, all right. So let me bring this up. Well, let's look at the current standings, where things are with the AFC itself. We'll start in the AFC East. We got the Miami Dolphins, guaranteed a playoff spot. Buffalo's right behind them. Baltimore's clinched the playoff spot, 13-3 records. Cleveland's still in here. We still got some playoff spots up. And, of course, the AFC South, once again, is the dog conference, the dog division in the AFC, where a division where the Jaguars should have won this division going away, but struggled. Look at that, 5 losses at home, 5 of 7 losses at home. You got that with there, and then the Kansas City Chiefs on a down year with 6 losses already. So, hey, go figure. So, what are y'all thoughts with the AFC? How do y'all looking at the current standings right now? We'll look at the playoff scenarios in a minute, but any thoughts, Sci-Fi Mambi? Your observations with the AFC as it currently sits?
I'm not really surprised about who the leaders are. What I'm more surprised about is why the Buffalo Bills aren't higher. They could have really taken off this year. But yeah, I always see these documentaries about the Browns, how they want the play, they want to win so bad, but they just continue to lag and lag and lag,
Yep. Whoopa, I know you're more of an NFC guy, I think, but Whoopa, what are your thoughts with the AFC as it currently sits?
I'll tell you one thing. It's the most important thing. Joe Flacco, the greatest quarterback to ever live. He's gonna beat whoever they play in the first round. Then he's gonna beat the Bengals. He's gonna get his revenge. Not the Bengals, the Ravens. He's taking them down.
There you go.
The Bengals are going to the AFC.
I know who you meant.
Who would have thought the Cleveland Browns would have been 11-5 after losing, Deshaun Watson? But how about that trade now? Looking back at it,
yeah, that trade and that contract, awful. And it's all you needed is Joe Flacco, 38-year-old Joe Flacco, coming off the bench, coming off the practice squad after like 1 week, barely knows the playbook, and he's a way better than the guy you gave like $280 million guaranteed dollars to. Which, by the way, I was doing math, and this was not the most scientific thing because I was just scrolling through past ESPN pages. From what I understand, the Cleveland Browns, in their history, at least since they got their team back, the new team history, have never had the most 300-yard passing games they've ever had is in a year is 3. And Joe Flacco had 4 straight 300-yard passing touchdowns or passing yard games. So he's basically the greatest quarterback in Cleveland Browns history.
Yeah, I think you could make a case for that, definitely.
I don't know. I really like this timeline. I always liked Joe Flacco. So I just want him to get his revenge. I want him to beat the Ravens. I don't know what'll happen after that, but I'm rooting for him.
Exactly. So, Sci-Fi Mombi, the Chiefs now they're leading the division at 10-6. We've seen some tempers on the field, both from Pat Mahomes and Kelsey. I call him Mr. Taylor Swift, but do you think that this is a team that's distracted by the Taylor Swift thing or other issues that have come? Because I know some people have taught, like some pros have said, given Mahomes advice to quit yelling at his teammates all the time and things like that. I mean, as a Chiefs fan, how do you see this team? I mean, they will win the division. They will be in the playoffs, but how do you see them going in as a Chiefs fan? I mean, after so many good seasons recently.
Well, and a lot of it, I also think for Mahomes is that he's just started his family. So he's got that distraction going on because, the kids are little and it's hard to be on the road and your wife is taking care of everything at home. And then your friend Kelsey's dating one of the biggest pop stars in the world and she's always at the game. And it seems like everybody's losing focus. This summer, they brought the Lombardi Trophy here to my town for a festival. And they were talking about, we want to be a dynasty. We want to run it back. And that was before the season started.
Right.
And I'm going, where was that drive now? Yeah. Because that game against the Raiders, was terrible. I mean, they had our number. They knew we were distracted and they knew how to take Kelsey out of the game.
Which is interesting because I know the Jaguars came close to beating the Chiefs last year, but Kelsey killed them. It's like they could not stop him or defend him. But when teams are able to adjust to a player like that, it can be. You got to find other options, other alternatives. The thing with the and I will tell you too. This is, like you said, distractions. All the play that happened where Kadarius Toney was lined up too far forward. He was in the neutral zone. Yet, from what I saw on replay, it was a good, legitimate call. I don't know. What any of y'all think? But if you saw it, because it looked like to me he was lined up on the ball in the neutral zone, I thought it was a valid call, but it negated a winning touchdown. But then the reaction was over the top, out of control, unfocused, just bridled rage. Not that I would say I probably wouldn't be so mad, but I mean, somebody should have at least said, yes, we were lined up improperly or something to diffuse that situation for the next play or whatever. But I mean, go ahead and if y'all look at it differently, if y'all think it was a valid lineup, let me know.
I think it was pretty bad from what I saw. The argument seemed to be that I shockingly have not played NFL football. I mean, I don't have hands. I couldn't catch very well. But I guess the argument was like, oh, the refs usually warn you if you're offsides. That seems very odd. Like, I guess I don't know why, because they definitely don't do that for the defense. Like, they don't warn you if your defensive player is offsides. So I don't get why they would warn you if your offensive player is offsides. But I don't know. It's that seemed to be the problem. It wasn't that like he wasn't offsides. It was that he didn't warn him. But that seems like an odd. I don't know. Don't know how the NFL goes in that regard. It just seemed odd. That was the argument. But I don't think Kadarius Toney's going to be a Chief next year. I can tell you that. That guy is gone.
Damn it, my whole thing with the Chiefs and I've been following them closely because I had 2 or 3 players at one point on my fantasy team with the Chiefs, including Mahomes as my starting QB.
Yeah.
You look at them, and I don't know if you still have the stats for the AFC up there. It wasn't their defense that was the problem. Most of the teams to this point in the year, I think, average or they have total more than 300 points against them, and the Chiefs are under that 300 mark. So from a standpoint of ranked defense, they're not terrible. The real issue, and I saw this stat 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, the Chiefs have the highest number and highest percentage of drop passes, where Mahomes has made contact with the receiver. The receiver has touched the ball in some way, and they do not complete the catch. So if Mahomes is going around yelling at all these players all the time, I mean, I would kind of be in his mindset too. What else can I do to make this team win if you guys don't catch the ball? You know, me as a QB, yeah, my stats are going to suffer, but I can't do anything but throw it right at your numbers, right? You have to make the play too. You're an NFL player too. And I think what you see is Kelce can't do it all. You know, Mahomes and Kelce are but 2 players on that 11-man offense. And you can't depend on these 2 people to carry the whole thing on their shoulders. You can depend on them do it a lot, but your other players that you maybe don't pay quite as much, well, you're in the NFL, you got to catch the ball. I think you're going to see a lot of change up in the secondary on that team come next year. I didn't give my take on the AFC standings, but they're probably the team that I fear the least on that list of the 7. So
yeah,
I think
that's interesting. Yeah.
Last year, obviously, very good for them because they won the Super Bowl. But I think that almost maybe did them a little bit of harm. I don't know if in the long term, but at least for this year, is that the whole theory was, hey, we've got Mahomes. He's great. He can do it even if he doesn't have elite wide receivers. We're going to trade away Tyreek Hill because, there's salary cap league, can only pay certain people so much, and we can prioritize other things and have Kelce, have Kelce do it and have Mahomes work with what they have. And they won it with Juju and Kadarius Toney, and I don't even know who else. Kelce, obviously.
That's the whole point, right?
But like they won it, and they're like, okay, well now we can let Juju walk because he's gonna probably want a raise, and we'll roll it out with Kadarius Toney, the rookies that they drafted, which the rookies they've drafted lately have not paid off. Rashee Rice is looking good now, but like Sky Moore, I don't think he even plays, and Cole Hardman, he's back, but he's not doing much at all.
A couple injuries too, if I remember.
But they kind of think like, oh, hey, Mahomes. I don't think the Chiefs thought this, but I've heard people say, like, yeah, you put the mailman at wide receiver, and Mahomes can make a playoff team out of him.
And he's come darn close. I mean, technically,
they're in the playoffs. It's just I don't know if that team is as good. You need some, maybe you don't need a Tyreek Hill. You're paying a bunch of money, but you need someone better than these guys. And especially, I think part of the thing is because Kelce has had some of those drops, and he's still a great tight end, but he's getting up there. There's going to be a point in time where, this is probably one of his worst seasons, and part of it is, hey, if your only threat is Travis Kelce, you can double team him and take him out of some of the plays. But also, it's just, hey, he's an older guy. He's up there. He's not going to be that game-changing tight end forever. If you don't have other wide receivers to step up for him, it's not going to go. You're not going to go far.
Yeah. Yeah, I did hear about that stat. That was very surprising from really what had been a dependable receiving core to like this year, just the dropsies. Like it's infectious, you know.
I always like and I'm sure JT Kirks likes this, but I always like the from the first game of the year where they take the picture of like the ball right in Kadarius Toney's hands and they're like this play ended up in a pick six. It's like if you look at it right before, it's like, oh, that's an easy completion. It's like, no, that's not, because you just bopped it up.
Yeah. The Dadman, looking at the rest of the AFC standings, it looks like Buffalo is playing Miami this weekend. Sci-Fi Mombi, you were saying that you didn't know why Buffalo wouldn't be higher. I think they've still got a chance to move up. Miami, I think is vulnerable. I think if they win,
they win the division, because they'll be tied by record, and Buffalo already beat Miami, so they would. I think head-to-head is the first tiebreaker, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. I think it is.
So they'd be 2-0, so they could win the division.
And then they would be 11-6, and I would say, yeah, they have every right to be at the top there, right? So I think Buffalo's got a chance to kind of surprise us still, but the two teams that scare me on this list are Baltimore and Cleveland, and Baltimore just takes teams apart. I mean, they dismantled the Lions, made them look like the old the old Lions from the past several decades when they played them. And they played them at home, so they had an advantage on that. The other team that really scares me is Cleveland, just because of the story potential. You don't know what's going to go on with that team.
Yeah.
On the fact that offense is going now, I mean, because the defense was always killing it, but the fact that the offense, even if, Flacco does tend to be turnover prone, like the fact that, hey, Jerome Ford is stepping up for Nick Chubb, and hey, Flacco means there's actually a passing attack now, which is still crazy to say, 2023.
Yeah.
But or it was 2024. Oh, crap.
Well,
but it's just like, yeah, but it's just like that team does look a lot scarier now.
And I think Indy and Houston are win and you're in. Neither one of those teams do I really care about. Jacksonville, I don't really care too much about either. They'll beat the Titans. I'm relatively certain of that, but
I think Houston is, if they were healthy, they already got Tank Dell out. CJ Stroud, I think, has been dealing with concussions, a few injuries. If Houston was healthy, that team is looking real good. Like, I think next year they could be serious contenders, because CJ Stroud was looking great when they had no run game and like the 5 starting offensive linemen injured.
By the way, hi to Jeremy. Jeremy's here. Hey, Jeremy, good to see you.
Hey.
Dude, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, I don't know if Houston will be great because Tank Dell's out for the year, and I think some of the wide receivers is banged up. I know CJ Stroud's been trying to get through his concussion, but I think they have a lot of
for
talent.
The Texans, so yeah,
and a lot of young talent. Like, everyone's going to be back next year, and they're going to be back for a while. I think, maybe not this year, but next year they could be serious contenders.
Now, Sci-Fi Mombi, if KC is probably going to be 11-6.
Well, let's look at this week's games. Let's look at this week's games, and we'll talk a little bit. Let's take a quick look at the NFC East, real quick. My Cowboys are 11-5, tied with the Eagles. So we'll see who wins. The Cowboys face the Commanders, and the Eagles face the Giants. Probably both teams will win. So we'll have to look at the playoff scenarios there in just a minute. Still, Cowboys are 5 losses with a 166 point differential, so they've had some bad losses. They are undefeated at home this year, So maybe they'll if they could get the home field advantage. But it's San Francisco, I think, probably would have it over them. But in the head-to-head matchups, but
San Francisco has it locked.
yeah, it says that they had the playoffs, but not yet home field. I think Philadelphia could have it. We'll have to look at the scenarios. But the Giants and Commanders are eliminated. The Detroit Lions have won the North. Woohoo! Congrats, JT.
Yeah, I know.
Congrats
First time for the very first time.
Is that in history?
That's great.
Team history?
Well, it used to be the NFC Central.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time they won it, I believe, was 93 with Barry Sanders. So yeah, it's been like 29 years, 30 years since they won any division. But that was the last time they won the NFC Central. So this, yes, is the first time that they won the NFC North. And the NFC North is not a new division. Not at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a big deal. This is a big deal. Now, I did want to bring up, I don't want to litigate the end of that game, but the Dallas-Detroit game where the refs blew the call, handed that game to Dallas. If Detroit had won, they would be in second. Dallas would be in third. There's a scenario where they could possibly play Tampa Bay. In the way that Philadelphia would have things, Philadelphia would be third and maybe Dallas would be actually fifth instead of second if they had lost.
Yep.
And one of the critical stats when you look at, in my mind, when you look at Dallas, is that they've lost all 4 games on natural turf that they've played this year. And I think they're 2-4 in outdoor games. And Tampa Bay is outdoor on natural turf. So you're looking at a very, very different setup. If that game had gone differently by the officials. So Dallas should feel really lucky that they're probably going to play indoors on artificial turf because they've done much better in those situations.
See those are not bad analytics. I'll tell you, those are some meaningful analytics. So, but Tampa Bay is the South is the dog division of a conference, and of course San Francisco's run off with the West we have right here. So let us look at the current playoff picture as it goes in with this. So you know what I did here? Let me bring this back up because I forgot to show this real quick, just so that people can see this part of it. This shows you how the Dallas Cowboys are tied with Philadelphia. Detroit leads the North. Tampa Bay, and New Orleans are tied. Our friend Clobby is probably scratching his head on that. San Fran and the Rams are down there. So the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Saints, Bucks, Vikings, and Packers are all still alive. So, and just think Minnesota is even alive. So let's.
I say the Cowboys are also lucky that Kyler Murray is a dog. I love Kyler Murray, even though people hate him because he plays Call of Duty. I don't know, but like he went. First of all, if he wins, I think he's at home. The Cardinals are at home playing the Seahawks. If he wins, the Cardinals will be 4-4 with him. Which that team, Cardinals are not a good team. They have like one good wide receiver. They have James Conner, who is good. They have like a pretty bad offensive line, a pretty bad defense. The fact that he's going 4-4, potentially going 4-4, when the team went like 1-9 without him. But mostly, I just like him going into Philadelphia, wearing a Pittsburgh Penguins jersey on his way through the tunnel, and then putting up 35 in a win in Philadelphia. That's awesome. That's amazing. When I saw him wearing the Sidney Crosby jersey, I'm like, oh my gosh, this man is brutal. And he backed it up. So there you go.
Yep, exactly. So, all right.
Now the fun thing is who's going to win the division between Dallas and Philly, because Dallas is playing a terrible Washington team,
Yep.
And Philly's playing a terrible Giants team.
Yes, and we will
Mhm.
see. We'll take a look at those matchups just a second.
What will
What-
the Dadman? Do you know what the tiebreaker is? Because I know they're both 1-1, so I don't know what the.
I don't know yet. We'll have to see what we can find out right here. I've got one article here. 9 teams have clinched postseason berths, including 5 in the NFC: the Niners, Eagles, Lions, Cowboys, and Rams. AFC: the Ravens, Dolphins, Browns, and Chiefs have clinched. 5 more spots are on the line in Week 18. So there's a 3-way top of the South. In NFC, there's 4 teams in the playoff hunt at 8-8, but 2 teams are outside looking in at 7-9. So here's the current week playoff scenarios. Okay, for the Texans to clinch a playoff berth, they play at Indianapolis on Saturday night. Houston gets the AFC title with a Houston win or Jacksonville loss or tie. So basically, it looks like the Texans, and I thought this was going to happen. I thought the Texans had the tiebreaker of the Jaguars. Apparently they do. How the Texans can clinch a playoff berth is a Houston win or Houston tie plus Jacksonville loss plus Pittsburgh loss or tie. So there's several chances for there. So it looks like, well, I don't know. If Houston wins, Jacksonville wins, it looks like Jacksonville wins the division then. The Colts in that matchup, they can clinch the AFC South title with Indianapolis win plus a Jacksonville loss or tie, or Indianapolis tie plus Jacksonville loss. How the Colts can clinch a playoff berth is an Indianapolis win, so they win and it looks like they get a playoff berth, or an Indianapolis tie plus Pittsburgh loss or tie. So, okay, then the Pittsburgh Steelers at 9-7 are at Baltimore.
You need like team names with a bunch of string on like a cork board and get your.
Hey, this is better than last year. You remember the game?
Drawn.
You remember the game when the Chiefs Bills was not finished last year? Clobber and Tom's lost his mind. I was like, there were impossible of neutral site playoff games last year. It was so screwed up. It was just off the charts. But the Pittsburgh can win. These are normal compared. Steelers can clinch a playoff berth with a Pittsburgh win plus Buffalo loss, or Pittsburgh win plus Jacksonville loss or tie, or Pittsburgh wins plus Houston Indianapolis tie, or Pittsburgh tie plus Jacksonville loss plus Houston Indianapolis doesn't end in a tie, or Jacksonville loss plus Denver win plus Houston Indianapolis doesn't end in a tie.
I started doing my show prep for this, Dadman, and I'm sitting here going, I'm just going to give up because there's
exactly.
This is the second highest number of teams to ever be in the hunt for playoffs ever. And I believe it's 20 teams are still eligible for the playoffs going into the final week of the season.
Exactly.
You're sitting here like your head just swims.
Here's a normal one though. Miami Dolphins 11-5 versus Buffalo Sunday at 8:20. Miami clinches the AFC title with a win or tie. Hey, how about that? That's
much easier.
Yeah. The Bills are at Miami. Buffalo will clinch the AFC title with a win. But it looks like the Dolphins are in the playoffs no matter what. But the Dolphins can clinch a playoff berth if they lose with a Buffalo. Well, if they tie, or Pittsburgh loses or a tie, Jacksonville loss or tie, Houston, Indianapolis tie. So it looks like the Bills are chasing behind the Jaguars and a lot of the other teams. So,
but you know what? That, if I may, real quick, that Bills Dolphins game, I think the Bills have a great chance to win it, even though it's on the road. Yep. I've seen probably 3 or 4 Miami games this year, and I've just not been impressed with them in the back half of the season. I just have not. They've played soft. Yeah, I really think they're vulnerable.
They've lost a lot of. I think their record versus teams over 500 is pretty rough. So.
Now that's sometimes people feed on the bottom feeders and can't beat the good teams. Okay, the Jaguars are at Tennessee Sunday at 1:00 with a battle of the division on the line for the Jaguars. Jacksonville will clinch the AFC South title with a win or a tie with the Indianapolis Houston ties. So Jags can clinch a playoff berth if they tie plus a Pittsburgh loss, or tie or Pittsburgh loss plus Denver loss, or tie plus Indianapolis Houston does not end in a tie. So really the Jaguars need to just win. If they lose, they might as well be out of it.
Yeah, but They're one game over 500, and they're going on the road against Tennessee, who probably doesn't like them very much. It would
Oh,
love nothing better than to spoil Jacksonville's good time.
folks. Oh
I'm
gosh.
calling trap
No,
on that.
you listen. You do not know how true you are. When the Jaguars were 14-2 in the regular season in 1999, had home field advantage. Tennessee came down here and beat them.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 losses the Jaguars that season were to Tennessee. Steve Fisher called Jacksonville their home arena. I mean, it was the blood between the two cities is horrible. It's it is that's going to be a nasty. Even though that they have a big losing record, they're going to be fired up for this game just to try to ruin Jacksonville's season. You are right, and especially with Trevor Lawrence's shoulder banged up and everything else. You got a friggin' former Iowa quarterback that might be your starter again. It's like, good luck,
Right.
So the team that had a lot of promise starting the season has really plummeted during the season, especially towards the end.
And that's why I was saying earlier, I don't count Jacksonville as a real threat on that AFC standings list. And I honestly think Tennessee is going to not give them a pretty game. They might win by 3, but I think they'll beat Jacksonville, and it put them on the sideline.
Right. All right, now the Dallas Cowboys moving to the NFC. Dallas Cowboys at Washington. Dallas clinches the NFC East title with a Dallas. Okay, yay! I cannot believe that they got the head-to-head against Philadelphia. So Dallas clinches the NFC East title with a win, or Dallas tie plus Philadelphia tie, or a Philly loss. So they have it. So it's a weird time. This is the type of game watch Dallas go in and choke.
And they're playing a 4-12 Washington.
This is like, it doesn't matter. Dak Prescott, this is like a playoff game. There you go.
Doesn't Washington play outdoors?
Yeah, they do, on grass.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Dadman, I know it's your team,
and
I know they didn't, my team got done dirty there, but if I were you, I wouldn't be walking away feeling tremendous about any of that.
No, I know. I'm not. As a hated rival, they really like to ruin your season. So the Bucks are at Carolina. Tampa Bay clinches the NFC title with a win or a tie plus a New Orleans loss or tie. So the Tampa Bay can clinch a playoff berth with a tie plus Seattle loss plus a Green Bay loss or tie. The Falcons are still in contention. They're at New Orleans.
12th ranked team in the NFC.
They're 7-9. They're 7-9 at New Orleans. They will clinch the NFC South with a win plus a Tampa loss.
I want it to happen. Make it happen, people.
With a losing record.
Then the Saints.
That's what we get the repeat again. Plus, hey, you don't want to see Taylor Heineke in the playoffs.
Yep.
Atlanta
clinches the NFC South title with a win plus a Tampa Bay loss. Then the Saints are 8-8. They clinch the NFC South title with a New Orleans win plus a Tampa loss or tie, or New Orleans tie plus Tampa Bay loss. How the Saints can clinch a playoff berth is that New Orleans win plus Seattle loss or tie plus Green Bay loss or tie, or New Orleans tie plus Seattle loss plus Green Bay loss. Okay.
I want to say that's one of the more likely scenarios, but I also don't think it's going to happen.
But see, this is what you just say to this stuff is this. Butts. Hey, Santa Megatron. Butts. Usually he says boobs, but we'll take butts this time.
Hey, Megatron. I thought he was saying booty, booty, booty.
Yeah.
That's a Buck Rogers reference there.
Sounds good. So
now,
the Eagles.
Just Claudia's a cool guy. I really want New Orleans to win.
I do too.
But I also don't want Green Bay anywhere near the playoffs. So
agreed. Because they'll beat the Cowboys if they face them. The Eagles are 11-5 at the Giants. So what's at stake? Philadelphia clinches the NFC East title with Philadelphia win plus Dallas loss or tie, or Philadelphia tie plus Dallas loss. So really, Dallas has to lose for Philadelphia to win the division. The Seahawks
Philly's had a rather ugly run of it.
They did
since Thanksgiving. They've lost 1, 2, 3, 4 out of their last 5 games, and the only one they won was against the Giants. So I mean, I guess that bodes well for them, but they're playing at, at the Giants. So, gosh.
Dump truck.
Now
Well,
they did have a tough schedule on some of those, but
they
losing to San
were
Francisco, losing to Dallas.
But like
Okay,
you
but
said,
they also lost to the Cardinals. So.
Well, like you said, they were a buzzsaw. Then they just like hit the boom. It's like they fell off. I mean, San Francisco did that. They were trucking along, then all of a sudden hit the wall. But the Seahawks are 8-8 at Arizona. So Seattle win plus Seattle can clinch a playoff berth with a win plus Green Bay loss or tie. Seattle tie plus Green Bay loss plus Tampa Bay loss or tie, or Seattle tie plus Green Bay loss plus New Orleans loss or tie. So there you go. And the Green Bay Packers, they can clinch a playoff berth with. They play Chicago. They clinch a playoff berth with Green Bay win or Green Bay tie plus Seattle loss or tie plus New Orleans loss or tie, or Green Bay tie plus Seattle loss plus Tampa Bay loss, or Green Bay tie plus Seattle tie plus Tampa Bay loss or tie, or Minnesota loss or tie plus Seattle loss plus Tampa Bay loss, or Minnesota loss or tie plus Seattle loss plus New Orleans loss.
And your Muslim uncle said the Sharks lost yesterday, Dadman. Hope that helps.
Oh, hell, your Muslim uncle. Well, I'm not into hockey right now, but hey, good to see you, your Muslim uncle. Oh, Jess is here too. Hey, So what I'm hearing is a lot of teams hope the Bears beat the Packers. Yes, exactly.
And the Bears are just sad because they're 7-9 and they're already eliminated. Yet Atlanta still has hope.
But can you believe how the Bears have turned the season around? A team that looked like they were not going to win anything have won 7 games this year. It's kind of amazing. I mean, too little, too late, but still, it's amazing to see. All right, the last is the Minnesota Vikings at 7-9 playing at Detroit. Of course, Detroit's probably increased. Well, I don't know. Detroit needs to try to win for seeding in the playoffs, I guess. What are they saying up there? Are they talking about resting starters, or are they coming out?
I haven't heard any of that. All the swirl in the media has been about Goodell and the whole thing with the Cowboys game. It hasn't really shifted yet. It'll probably happen in the media tomorrow, looking ahead instead of behind. I doubt they're going to be sitting much because you'd rather be third and be looking at a home field. At least, well, the first week they've pretty much already gotten that squared away, right?
Well, I think the seeding still has to do because they're 11-5, like the Cowboys and the Eagles. So if they lose, they could actually get to the 3rd seed, not have that first round bye. We'll look at the schedule. We'll look at the standings again.
Well, no, there's only
have the first game at home.
The first
game at home. Okay.
The first round. There's only one first round bye, and 49ers are already.
Oh, that's right. They added a 7th seed, didn't they?
Yeah.
I'm still stuck in the old playoff rules. Sorry. Thank you for updating me on that one.
Do they have? I don't know if you know, because I guess the Cowboys have the tiebreaker over the Lions, but do they have the tiebreaker over the Eagles?
Yes, Dallas has to just win.
Sorry, I meant do the Lions have the tiebreaker over the Eagles?
That I have not seen. That it does not go into this right here.
They might go to 2nd.
I'm wondering, do they have a chance? Because if they won't pass the Eagles or the Cowboys, if they win, then the Lions are pretty cemented in 3rd.
Yeah, so they're 2nd, or even if they were to go up to 2nd, either way, they're still going to play at home as a 3rd seed.
Right, but then they get to play at home the 2nd week too. That would be a big positive.
Yeah. Yep. Now, Dadman, I did hear someone I know has like 30-yard line seats, maybe 40 rows up. Not decent seats, but by no means like stellar, right? But still pretty good seats. Sold his tickets for $980 a piece.
Wow.
Nice. So he made, I want to say his entire season back in one game and he went to half the games and sold the other half. So I told him, you sell those 2 tickets. Yeah, you might not see them, but you can go watch them in the Florida Keys in some nice warm weather instead for that kind of cash, right? So that's where the talk is right now. People are all focused on getting ready for the playoffs, but I have not heard about any sitting. That Minnesota game has some bad blood. I believe Minnesota won when they played at Minnesota earlier in the year.
Mm-hmm.
In these rivalry games, I mean, Detroit hates all these other teams because these other teams have just whooped on them year in and year out. So
Right.
there is no friendly competition between any of the NFC North.
Nope.
Yeah, I
understand
think
that's a lot of hate.
if you can still up your seed, your seed number, you might
Yeah.
as well just keep. That's one positive about having that they did when they went from 6 to 7 is that you don't get a lot of teams like resting their stars. Like I'm sure the 49ers and Ravens will for 1 week, but you're not going to get these things like I forget when the Colts went 14-0 that 1 year and then just said, hey, we're benching everyone for the last 2 games of the season. You don't get a lot of that anymore, which is nice. I think that's positive for everyone.
And plus, you want to be as far away from San Francisco as you can get. I think they're going to ride all the way to the NFC Championship game easily.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to be second seed if you can.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be any of those others because all these other teams are very beatable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's no love lost in the North, though. I mean, that's obvious. So, I mean, between the Bears, the Packers, I mean, now you got the Lions in the mix. For all these years, the Lions have been looked at as the harmless little kitties and stuff. And
right. Right. I mean, I've gone to games at the end of the year where maybe the Lions have already been eliminated, but they can still ruin Green Bay or ruin the Bears. And you get, 2/3 of the stadium of Ford Field just full of Bears or Packers fans,
right.
And their chants are louder than the home team.
But at least the Lions got to ruin the Packers season last year, though.
Yep.
So,
right.
And hello to Bucky's Crafting. Good to see you,
And,
Bucky.
The Packers always have those stupid quarterbacks that are always, the media darlings. It was Brett Favre, and then Aaron Rodgers now, and it just gets annoying because then every time you watch them, it's the Aaron Rodgers show, and it's
exactly it's all about him. Well, let's look at the last team, the Minnesota Vikings, who play at Detroit Sunday. Minnesota, the Vikings can clinch a playoff berth with a win plus a Green Bay loss plus Seattle loss plus Tampa Bay loss, or Minnesota win plus Green Bay loss plus Seattle loss plus New Orleans loss. Why didn't they just put Tampa or plus Tampa Bay / New Orleans loss instead of 2 different lines? It's like the same thing anyway. But that's the playoff. That's the playoff spot. Let's look again at the NFC here as we look at it. Since there's only one, to me the thing would be if the Niners lose, who has the head-to-head who get that first round bye? Would it be the Cowboys, Lions, or the Niners? If it's based on conference record, it looks like San Fran would at 10-1 in the conference. So, but
I think their first round lock.
Yeah, but see, what's weird is that they do not put it down here. They clinched the division and bye, but they did not clinch home field advantage. So
yeah, but if you have the bye week, then you have home.
Oh
field,
yeah. Dude, thank you. So. I'm still stuck and I'm still getting used to. Listen, I did not watch NFL till last year for a while, so I've been out of it, and I keep learning new things have changed since I've been out. But hey, all right. So yes, that's the bye. So then in the AFC, then the Baltimore Ravens have that bye, so they would be the first seed no matter what in the East. So.
If you're any of the other teams, though, I feel like you kind of want San Francisco to win because then it puts the weaker Rams lower on the list. And you'd much rather play somebody like that that's going to be one game over 500 then. especially if you're Dallas or Detroit. That's just me. Jess is a Bears fan, right?
Yes, Jess is a Bears fan. Yes.
Okay. I don't want to misspeak if she's a Vikings fan, and then how dare you?
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So we will go with looking at this week's schedule now of games. We've got coming up Saturday games now. Pittsburgh at Baltimore, and a game that probably doesn't means nothing to Baltimore, but means a lot to Pittsburgh. Of course, we talked about the playoff implications of Houston, Indianapolis. That game there. Cleveland's on the road at Cincinnati. With their Minnesota is at Detroit. Big game to Minnesota. Not so much with Detroit, but with San Francisco clinching the bye. Jacksonville at Tennessee with all, this. Will Jacksonville win? I mean, who will their quarterback be? Can they win again? They've had good success against Tennessee in the last year or two, but will history play a part in there? Like JT pointed out, this is definitely a trap game of all trap games. This is a game that could be, don't take the Jaguars just because they're 9-7 and Tennessee's 5-11. This has a lot of hatred, a lot of history. There's a lot to this game. New York, New England, and a meaningless game. Atlanta, New Orleans with a lot on the line for both teams. Yeah, JT.
It may be meaningless. It might be a certain head coach's final game with their team after many years. Belichick is rumored to not be in the best relationship with the owners, the front office, and it may be his last game there. So I don't know, Sci-Fi or Whoopa, if you've heard any more about that. But
I've heard the rumors. I feel like that would be a pretty bad decision. That being said, I mean, Belichick he's a really good coach. He's an awful GM, terrible GM. But I don't think that who are they going to hire that's going to be better than him? That's what I always think.
That's a good question. He is only he's less than 50 wins away from the most winningest coach of all time, but I think it might be closer to like 30. He's pretty darn close, so I don't think he wants to be done. If you're a guy like that, coach in football, you want to go out being number one, but doing it in New England is going to be tough. Anyway, Dadman, sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, no, it's okay. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that one, if it is. Atlanta, New Orleans, like we said, that's a big battle there. Tampa Bay at Carolina means a lot to Tampa Bay with a division title on the line. Chicago at Green Bay. Will the Bears go do what Detroit did last year? Go and ruin Green Bay's playoff chance. Denver and Las Vegas. That's what it is. Philadelphia at New York. Will Philadelphia win the Eastern Division? The Eastern, the NFC East. So I'm getting baseball and other things in my head now. But this game. But see, this is with a really not good New York Giants team. But it could be a trap game for them. I mean, it is a divisional game. It is a rivalry game. The Giants are at home. So, and the Seattle plays at Arizona with playoffs on line for Seattle. Kansas City and Los Angeles really in a not so meaningful game. But can Kansas City get healthy going into the playoffs? LA at San Francisco. Dallas on the road at Washington with the East on the line. I think it's so fitting. I like the way they schedule the interdivision rivalries, like with Dallas and Washington, Dallas, New York, or Philadelphia, Dallas, Philadelphia, New York. The combination of the four teams. It just makes sense for them in the last week. And of course, Buffalo at Miami, the game of the week, because two good teams with the AFC East on the line. So
the question on that Cleveland game: do you think Cleveland's going to shut out the Bengals, like I think happened a couple weeks ago?
Cleveland will shut out the Bengals. Yeah, let's see.
I think they both want it.
You think they both do?
Even though the Bengals
just-
are limited. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm so torn on this one because I wouldn't mind seeing the Browns walk away with it, but the Bengals want it as well.
Yeah,
The Bengals got a lot of people, I think, even though they're eliminated from the playoffs. I mean, Jake Browning is trying to probably get a role somewhere later. Because once Burrow's gone, he's going to be in the backup again, but he's played fairly decently. Yeah, Joe Mixon, he could be a free agent this year. T. Higgins probably going to be a free agent this year. So there's a lot of guys. This could be the last chance to add some money into their offseason contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they'll probably play pretty hard.
Be the battle for Ohio too. I mean, personal opinions aside, maybe that means something.
Yeah. I mean, what? Jamar Chase calling them all elves or whatever. So, there could be some bad blood there.
Yeah.
Yep. But I think that this is one of those rivalries, isn't it? It's always been a history of Cleveland and the Bengals dating back, I guess, to the Paul Brown just for years, decades, right? And they lost between the two cities.
Yeah, I think that they're pretty. They got a pretty healthy rivalry, from what I understand.
Yeah,
they've both had their issues lately.
But I still see Cleveland. I remember Joakim Noah with the Chicago Bulls. Like it's Cleveland. It's just.
Oh yeah, it's
Cleveland. It's like God, everybody. But hey, it's very interesting. So we can go ahead and start to wrap up because we're nearing the 2-hour mark. And any final thoughts going into this last weekend? Anything we haven't covered? Anything you want to say as we conclude? Because to let people know, we're planning on talking the next several weeks, but we will specifically talk playoff football. We will, unless there's some breaking headline news in the world of sports, we will focus on the NFL and NFL playoffs. This week, I wanted to really cover some of the college football. We might talk a brief bit about the championship game Monday night, but not much. I mean, we're going to focus on the NFL playoffs going forward from here. So join us each Wednesday night, although in 2 weeks on the 17th, I will not be available. And I don't StreamYard on my phone remotely. So we will have to skip that week, but we'll come back the following week all the way up into the Super Bowl, we hope. So, all right. Any final thoughts? Sci-Fi Mombi, how are you excited for this last weekend of pro football? What are you looking out for?
Oh, Super Bowl win.
Oh, there you go. All or nothing for the Chiefs.
And the pitchers reporting for spring training.
Y'all are going to make me do a baseball show, aren't you?
Heck yeah.
Oh, no.
It's next month.
Let's do it.
It's here. Yeah, opening day is March 30th. So let's go.
Damn it. Whoop has heard me bash inbreeding play because I'm still old fuddy duddy. American National should never play till the World Series. Wrigley Field looks like a pimped up whatever with all the lights and ads in it now.
It's Wrigley Field. Anything with the Cubs on is going to look bad,
It's like, jeez. But, all the tradition. Now in extra innings, we got to have the gift man on second.
Oh, I hate that.
I know. There's just
I
all the
tradition.
it. But I don't know if there's demand for baseball. We can talk. I'm open to things. So
I'll talk baseball until your ears bleed. I don't,
So what about the XFL? Is there any rumor of what's happening with XFL?
Oh yeah, it's the what's it called? The merger is official. It's now the UFL.
Okay, and
they took the Battlehawks, the Brahmas, the Roughnecks, the who are the other teams? The DC Defenders and the Arlington Renegades from the XFL, and then they took Michigan Panthers, I think.
Yep.
Birmingham Stallions and Memphis Showboats from the USFL.
So no Orlando team. Boo. Anyway.
Yeah. Hey, I was hoping they were going to take the Michigan team. I like watching them in the spring.
Oh
yeah.
I think a lot of it is So I know I think Houston is the only team that doesn't have like their stadium rights set up yet, because like the Battlehawks already have their stadium set, the dome still already, and like the three teams that came over from the USFL were the three hub cities. They have Ford Field, they had the Birmingham Stadium, and they had the Memphis Stadium. So they already had deals in place for that.
Right.
So I'm happy that it seems like they're going to do the actual in-person model, not the hub model, because that hub model was stupid. But I'm excited. They already announced some players coming back, so I'm hoping it's good. It doesn't start until March 30th though, so they took kind of like the USFL start time, which I don't like. I liked it starting kind of like, I think
Right
it was
after.
2 weeks after the Super Bowl, where it's like, yes,
the week after the Pro Bowl.
Has 1 week after, like you get 1 week of a break and then you're back into it. It's like, yes, this is good. I like it.
There you go. All right. To conclude with this week's Sci-Fi Mommy, so you want nothing but the road to victory to the Super Bowl championship for the Chiefs, right?
That would be nice. However, I'm a realist.
Yes.
So if they don't get their act together, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, if they don't, who do you think might come out of the AFC?
Oh, it's a good question. Sorry about my cat there.
It's okay. Cats are all stars on YouTube streams.
That's true. I'm going to say Baltimore, or I'm trying to think of the other one that I heard the other day that I thought, oh yeah, that'd be great. Oh gosh, my mind went blank. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Well, here I'll bring up the standings to help refresh your memory. So so we got the Dolphins, Bills.
Oh, the
Jaguars,
Dolphins.
The Dolphins.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Whoopa, what do you think? What are you looking forward to this week?
Not much. No. I mean, like I don't have. I did not really pick up a team after the Rams left. I kind of stuck around the Jets for a bit, which is a really dumb decision. I don't know why I did that to myself.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. It was a bad decision. I learned the error of my ways now. So, but like most of the teams remaining, I mean, obviously fantasy season is over. But like most of the teams, it's like, I don't know. I'll be excited when the playoffs start, but for now, it's kind of like I don't care if any of these guys win right now.
Yeah, and now knowing that there's only one bye, it's kind of like, who cares if you win the East? So it's like,
right.
I mean, I do hope the Cowboys win the East and get higher seeding, but still,
it's still nice to have you're still fighting for an extra home game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better overall that you don't get, I like that you don't have as many meaningless games. There used to be, felt like there's multiple teams usually by the end of the year. They're like, yeah, we're just benching people because it doesn't matter. And it's nice that you don't have that anymore. So
no,
but
I just was looking at the Ravens. 16 games, they've only given up 263 points. That's less than 20 points a game, a 210 point differential.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like
their defense
that's almost 30 points a game. Wow, on offense.
And the other two chasing right behind them are Kansas City and Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And everybody else is over 300.
Yep. JT, any other thoughts?
Sure. So for this weekend, I'm looking for wins out of Cleveland and Buffalo over in the AFC. Those are the two teams I want to see go the furthest. Sorry, Sci-Fi, with your Chiefs. I just like the history and the dynasty of those teams, or the lack of it, or the teams that don't always win. I really want to see them win something. And I'm kind of with other people that have said, what if Cleveland and Detroit were in the Super Bowl? I'd take Buffalo and Detroit too. I think that would be an awesome 2 Super Bowls, just so we can have some shakeup.
I'd like
at the top.
Cleveland and Detroit in the Super Bowl would be like amazing.
Yeah.
I want Dallas and Detroit, but we still have the possibility of a Jacksonville-Detroit Super Bowl.
We do. So yeah, out of those 3 teams, I'd like to see one of those 3 in the AFC go to the Super Bowl, but they have to get through the Ravens first. So, but for this weekend, I'm looking for Cleveland and Buffalo in the AFC, and then in the NFC, I'm looking for wins out of Detroit and New Orleans and Philly.
All right,
and then a loss in Dallas, just to mix it up. Not to stick it to you or anything, but
I know.
And then on Monday, I'm looking for Washington by 60, if I can. I want the game to end at a reasonable hour. They seem to start this thing way too late. I know there's other time zones, but damn it, the Eastern time zone is the only one that matters. And I don't like staying up till 1 a.m. trying to figure out who wins.
Yes, I know. I got you. I'll have the TV on in the background because I will be actually on Appion's channel on Monday night at 7 talking about the movie Dodgeball.
Oh, good
movie.
So I hope
if you
y'all
can
join
dodge
us
a
over there.
tax collector, you can dodge a dodgeball.
If you can dodge a rich, you can dodge a dodgeball.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say.
So many good lines out of it. You couldn't even hit water if you fell out of a boat.
That was my quote of the day the other day. If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball.
I love it. So, hey, folks, I look for a Cowboys win. I want a Cowboys win. Hey, win the East just to tick off the Philadelphia fans. But I really...
That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world either, mind you.
Yeah, we always like tick off Philly. So the rest of it, I really don't care. I'd like to see the Jaguars win and make the playoffs. But then again, it's a team that's going to be limping in very underwhelming, unlike last year. A team that had promise last year with a lot of youngsters did not improve their roster this year. And now they're showing an inability to protect the quarterback and a lot of other things that will catch up to them. But like JT said, that's a trap game. Do not expect that to be an easy win for the Jaguars. I mean, if the Jaguars win it, they're going to have really had to work their butt off to get that win. I think it's funny. Gardner Minshew is a former Jaguar, is the quarterback for Indianapolis since Anthony Richardson got hurt. And go figure. Looks like Lawrence is back at practice. So look for him to be starting this week because you do not want to trust your playoff or chances to an Iowa quarterback. That's even worse than a Wisconsin quarterback. But hey, we'll figure out what goes on. So, but that's the basic thing. So I hope to see y'all next Wednesday with us. Also, we got 7 people right now with us. I want to see. Bucky says, I agree with every correct opinion, all of which I completely understand. There you go. Thank you, Bucky. We appreciate you being here.
Exactly.
We appreciate you. We appreciate all of y'all that have been here. Currently now, I'm set to do another live stream in a little bit, like a late night. I'm waiting on someone to get back with me that said earlier. So probably we'll look to start in about half an hour, about 11:30. Take a break, get something to drink, come back, and we'll go squirrel chasing a little bit. Is the plan? If not, I won't tweet it out again. So more no, LOL. You can't get rid of me. It's an addiction. Although I will say, in about a week, get a snack. Yes, definitely. I'm hoping to squirrel chase with Hungry. We talked about doing it tonight. If you've not seen Hungry and all, it's fun to squirrel chase. Wes Cagle said the Eagles choked just like every year after Philly team goes to the big dance the year before. Had the Disney in the hands and lost to a crap team, the Cardinals. Well, hey, the Cowboys lost to them also. So, okay, go figure. So, hope to join us for that because, like I said, in about, what's today, the 3rd? Mm-hmm. In 2 weeks, I will be taking a week off. There will be maybe some drive streams and maybe some impromptu short live streams, but nothing like organized. And because we're planning on being out of town for a little bit for our anniversary. So, and we got some other surprises with that trip. Yeah. Coming on. I mean, we'll still do drive streams and stuff, but we got some other surprises that we're holding back on before announcing. So we're looking forward to a great trip with that. So, yeah, of course. So with it, winter, I got a lot more time than a mid-spring, fall. Yep. All righty, folks. Well, let 7 people here watch. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Currently, we are playing the roller coaster of the yo-yo of 550 subs. We were at 549. We were at 553 the other day. Got to 548. Today, we're back to 551. Back to 558. Then now at 549 again. So this is like watching a YouTube subscriber algorithm is like the playoff scenarios in the NFL. They're maddening. It'll drive you crazy if you try to understand it. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as we go into NFL playoffs. So, oh yeah, not a lot of landscape. Yep, especially up there. I agree. I mowed my yard a couple months ago, and I don't have to mow it again. Yay. So, all right. Well, folks, I hope to see you next week, same time at 9 p.m. We'll be more focused on the NFL. Sci-Fi Mommy, thank you for being here.
Thanks
talking
for having
sports
me.
with us.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hopefully we made it fun for you. We'll do less college next time, and really look forward to hearing you and your thoughts about the playoffs coming up.
It's going to be good.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Whoopa, thank you again, sir.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. JT Kirk, as always, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, everybody, on that note, be ready in about half an hour. If I don't go live, it's because things fell apart. But that's okay. But I'm planning on doing it in about 30 minutes. So get back, get a snack like Bucky said, have fun, and we will see you later. Bye, all.